do want to mention really quick that the Strugatsky brothers, who wrote the novel Roadside Picnic, also wrote this script.
Yeah, sorry, that's a huge thing.
It is important for that to be said.
Yeah.
Also, I can't imagine trying to do a creative pursuit with your brother. Hello, fellow lovers of the liminal and weird, and welcome to another video by Liminal Spaces. As you can see, I have taken the trek all the way up to my brother's house. So we are going to do this video together, which we don't get to do often. And we are going to be doing it on the movie Stalker. Yeah, it's Stalker week here at Liminal Spaces. So I'm going to hand this to Jason and let him do his bit, because he's better with the movies than I am. I'm really just here to talk about the differences for the book.
Yeah, which is a really neat thing that we don't get to do very often, I think. So, Stalker came out in 1979. It's directed by Andrei Tarkovsky. It's based on the book Roadside Picnic by the Strugatsky brothers. And I'm just going to say right now, there are a bunch of Russian names involved with all of this, of course. We're going to stop trying to say them because we're just going to slaughter them. Of course, if you want to know who the cinematographer is for this film, you should look it up, of course. But we're not going to try to actually go into their names. Of course, Andrei Tarkovsky also directed Solaris, which is a brilliant film, which we've already gone over. We have a video for that. You should check it out. So they had two different cinematographers for this film. Apparently this film was a disaster to try to get made. They filmed for a good year. They were filming a lot of outside stuff, I believe. And I guess there was a lot of fighting between the director and the cinematographer. And then by the time they got back to the lab to start processing this stuff, after a year, apparently, they realized that none of the film could actually be used. There was something wrong. So the director fired that cinematographer and hired a second cinematographer. And I guess that was after he even considered just scrapping the whole project.
Yeah, then they just
which I think you would after a year.
Oh, my God.
Yeah. But he decided to keep going, so we got another cinematographer that started again.
If you think about how much people lay down in water and how
in the
awful,
film.
Yeah.
Yes.
So they'd already done all this terrible shit with the actors, and then they have to go do it again.
Yes. Yeah. So apparently it was a huge mess, but they did decide to persevere, luckily. They got another cinematographer, and they went ahead and made the film. It looks beautiful.
Yeah.
I mean, the sets are gorgeous. The cinematography is gorgeous. The lighting, I mean, it's just incredible, especially with the weird places that they were filming. The music is fantastic. The film opens and closes with a kind of a classical piece, which is not my favorite. It's pretty typical kind of grandstanding and, bombastic sort of we're amazing music. But throughout, there's this weird kind of electronic stuff that's going on, especially with that wonderful shot where they're riding along the rails in the little car, and slowly that rhythmic sound becomes more and more electronic.
You know what it reminded me of was Vincent and Theo.
Oh, yeah.
Do you remember all that reverb that they did in Vincent and Theo with all the drops becoming music and stuff?
Yeah.
And that came later. It just reminded me of that. We should do that sometime on the channel.
Absolutely. Vincent and Theo, incredible movie.
Yeah.
About Vincent van Gogh.
Yeah, that slow rhythmic kind of turning into electronic music was really awesome.
Yeah, that was very cool. And then, of course, when you hit the zone, it becomes color, which is a really big deal. I mean, we were honestly like, oh my gosh, it's in color now. Yeah. Which was totally cool.
Shocked me.
Yeah, totally cool.
And you said they're doing a Wizard of Oz, which is absolutely right. But I like that it's like a kind of a reverse, because the zone's supposed to be the terrible bad place. Mm-hmm. And the world's supposed to be the good place, and they have flopped that around.
Definitely, and we'll get more into that in just a minute. But also, there's that dramatic sequence where they're sleeping, and they do that slow pan from the Stalker all the way across the ground through the stream, and it's tiled floor, which is crazy because it meant that it used to be outdoor or indoors.
Yeah,
which was really wonderful. All the trash that's in there and everything, and then they get to that hand just laying on the ground, and there's this kind of electronic thing going on with this kind of flute above it.
It's beautiful.
Really wonderful. Yeah, the music is really great in this. This film is an excellent, excellent film. But I'm really thankful that we get to do kind of a big differences thing.
Yeah.
Because I think it's very important for this piece of art specifically. Yeah, but the music was really wonderful. So, in reading about this, I came across an interesting thing for this director, which is he wanted to make a movie that followed the classical Aristotelian unities, which are place, time.
Aristotelian?
Yeah, what did I say?
I don't know. I don't know if I'm saying it right.
Yeah.
That's a hard word.
Yes, yeah. Yeah, it's Aristotle, of course.
Yeah.
Aristotle.
Aristotelian.
Yeah, Aristotle wanted to make plays a specific way. And of course, a lot of Greek plays follow the unities. Action, location, and day. So it'd be in a 24-hour period. It would all take place in the same place, and it would all deal with the same thing. And two things about that. Number one, I find it very interesting that he continuously, at least as far as we've seen, chooses material that contradicts what he wants to do.
Oh, yeah, with Solaris, too.
Right. It's so weird that he...
Yeah, Solaris was about... And we haven't read the book.
Right. But it's way beyond don't leave the Earth because Earth is good, space is bad.
Yeah.
That's not what Solaris the book is about, I'm sure. Right? But that is what the film's about. And then this, trying to smash this amazing story into the unities. I mean, the whole thing would just have to take place in the bar.
Yeah.
Is all you could do.
Or in that room.
Yeah, you could put it literally in the room where the wishes come true.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, that's probably a better choice.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Good. Now, of course, that didn't end up happening. That's just his initial thoughts on it. Secondly, I do want to point out how important theater was in 79 and is in Russian culture.
Yes.
In America, we do not have that. We have film, of course, but film is also important in Russia, you know.
Yeah.
But I think it's safe to say that in 1979, film or theater was as important in Russia as film is in America today.
With Chekhov and Stanislavski.
All that stuff. I mean, first off, Russian culture is so steeped in it. And secondly, for a long, long time for humans, the only kind of entertainment like this you could get was to go and see a play.
Well, and speaking of stage, I felt like the beginning of the movie when she has her dramatic fall on the floor, roll around sad.
So
it was stage dramatic.
Yes,
it
and
really
all
was.
All the actions through this are so dramatic.
Yeah.
It's so extreme and so over the top. I think that respecting theater is just a Russian thing.
Yeah.
And I think he was trying to respect theater in this production, and it really, really shows in two ways. I'm going to do it again. First off, it's all very dramatic and over the top, and secondly, I don't feel like there's really a budget for this film.
No, I agree.
Like, it's so we're gonna film it in a field. You know, I got this shack we can film in.
Yeah.
It's very...
Yeah, most of the budget had to be that Jeep chase.
Right.
I mean, seriously.
Exactly. Yeah, that's when we saw the most characters.
No.
We mentioned the Foley work, the sound dubbing. It's pretty clear that they put in a lot. Like, one part that really sticks out to me is when they're looking for the cart, the guards are shooting at them. But all we get to tell us that the guards are shooting at them is some small splashes in the water and then the sound of a machine gun.
Yeah.
We don't see the guard pull up the gun and fire and then the person duck. We literally just see a splash and then the sound of a machine gun. So I really believe he was trying that. He was really trying to make this production more like a play and less like a movie, which is a very interesting choice.
Oh yeah, I see what you're saying. So they can't show the action that they couldn't show on stage. They have to they have to like represent everything.
Right.
Yeah, okay.
And we do see the guards with machine guns when they're on the Jeep. But the minute they get off that Jeep, or the minute one of them gets off the Jeep, the guards are gone.
Yeah.
They're not in the movie anymore.
Yep.
But we still see these shots every once in a while,
Yeah, people getting shot at.
Yeah.
With no other characters present.
We just hear a machine gun. Yeah. Yeah, so that's a very interesting, weird take that he had on this film. But I think the film is, of course, a classic. I think it's wonderful. But be aware of that. If you're thinking, I haven't seen Stalker, I should check it out. Think of it as you're going to watch a play about Roadside Picnic, not Roadside Picnic. Might be jumping ahead there a little bit.
Not even a play about Roadside Picnic, a play inspired by Roadside
Picnic.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very distant.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, we're going to do a quick plot synopsis of the movie. I do want to say that going forward, we are going to be spoiling both the movie and the book because we're going to really discuss the movie in great detail and also parts of the book. So yeah, if you haven't seen the movie, go ahead and watch the movie, and hopefully you've either read the book or seen the movie so you can follow along with us. Quick plot synopsis.
Yeah, so it's about a stalker, a person that people hire to guide them through the zone to get to the room where their wishes come true. And they only... God, that's really about it.
And that's it.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
This is about the journey. It's about all their character arcs as they go to this room where their wishes come true. And I was shocked because the book, of course, and we'll get into this more in the future when we talk about the zone and everything. But in the book, the zone was so much more. There was so much alien technology in there. And in this, literally the whole point of going into the zone is to get to the room to get your wish. At least for these characters. I don't know why the train's going into the zone.
And that's big. We do need to talk about the train for a second.
Yeah. This is at the beginning of the movie.
Yeah, the way they actually pass into the zone, because it's illegal to go there, and the whole thing is surrounded by barbed wire, this huge fence that I guess you can't get through. The only way we see that the stalker gets into the zone is by following a train that is going into the zone.
Yeah, there's a big gate they open.
Yeah, so they open the gate, the train goes through, and then on the Jeep, they just gun it, and they tear in after the train.
Like all the guards can see him.
Yeah,
That's
and they
crazy.
all start shooting at them, but they're in the Jeep, so they're okay. And the guards don't dare to go any further than that into the zone. So the minute they clear the guards shooting at them, they're safe.
Yeah.
Because the guards won't chase them.
Which brings a little bit of credence to how scary the zone is. The guards won't even follow them. Once they're in, they're in. In fact, we can segue here to... Well, before I do that, so that is really, truly the plot of this movie. It is their journey to get to that room. That is the whole point. That is exactly what this movie's about. So we're going to be talking about all kinds of different stuff that happened in this movie, but all of it is just parts of the journey that get them to that room so that they can make their wishes. So with that, let's talk about the zone.
All right, so we're going to talk now about the zone itself. We're going to talk about the zone in the movie versus the zone in the book.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which one should we start with?
Let's start with the movie.
Okay.
So in the film, they don't really clarify the origin of the zone. Now, they do say, the professor literally says, a meteor hit, and everything here started going crazy. People started vanishing. Nobody knew what was going on. So they begin to suspect that it's more than just a meteor that hit. And that's about all we get. In fact, there are times in the film when even that is called into question. And we can talk more about that when we talk about the role of the stalker in the film. But it's very vague why the zone even exists.
Yeah. Yeah, in the book it is 100% aliens landing. There's 6 touchdown spots, so there's 6 zones across the earth, and they land, and we're so afraid we hide, and then they take off. So we never actually see the aliens, but it is an alien moment, an alien roadside picnic.
Yeah, in the film, they really are only going to the zone to find the room that makes your wishes come true.
Yeah, that seems like the whole point.
That's it.
Yeah, that's
it.
the whole point of the zone. And
Yeah.
the zone in the book is filled with weird alien technology, and they're constantly going in there to get stuff that scientists want, to get stuff that the black market wants, and they are they're trying to, and failing most of the time, to reverse engineer these pieces of alien technology. And I will admit, for me, the book's zone was a lot more engrossing, and it's very strange because I feel like the zone in the movie becomes intertwined with this theme of faith, right? The stalker wants people to believe in the zone, and because of that, they can't really ever show the stakes of the zone. Does that make sense?
It does. It totally does. Yeah, like we should talk about the horror of the zone.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
In the film, the zone is implied to be very scary.
Yeah.
Although we never really see any evidence of it. There's an interesting scene in the film where one guy is like, I've had enough of this. The writer, he's like, I think you're just making this up. I don't think this is actually scary. I'm just going to go there. I can see the room right there. I'm just going.
Yeah, the wish room is like 400 yards away, right?
At most. Yeah.
And you see it like 20 minutes into the film, and then they got to go 2 hours roundabout.
Right, but the writer's like, no, it's right there. I'm going, and he just starts walking towards it, and then you hear a voice. And I believe that it is the stalker actor's voice. And the voice says, stop, don't go any further.
Oh, yeah.
And he just stops.
And then I think the scientist, the professor, says, why'd you stop him? And the stalker says, I thought you did.
Yeah, I didn't stop him, I thought you did.
Yeah.
And then the guy comes back and he says, why did you stop me?
Yeah.
And they're like, we didn't stop you. And then the scientist says, the scientist and the writer are always picking on each other. The scientist says, it's clear to me how insane you are because you literally want to have the courage to walk in there, but you're such a coward that you would literally speak in a different voice to make yourself stop so that you could come back.
Yeah.
And of course, the stalker says the zone warned you.
Yeah, and considering it about the zone, it's strange because part of it is like, could he have just walked into that building? Did the stalker stop him? Is that why it's in the stalker's voice, the one that yells stop? And of course, the music was swelling and it was getting very spooky. And one of the things that I was afraid of is that they weren't going to be able to really bring the true tension of the zone. And I think that when I watched the movie, I was afraid it was going to be 0, and the truth is it's about half. of what the book is. There is a haunting quality to the zone in the movie that is absolutely incredible. But the question is there the entire time of, is the zone really that dangerous? And the only hint we get is a burned out car with a body in it, and then a bunch of tanks that are overgrown in the distance. That's the only warning we get. The whole time, it could be that the stalker is just making up the fear of the zone, and we'll get into that more with the stalker. But I expected there to be like a fourth character that would somehow go against the stalker and die, because then we'd know the stakes.
Right.
Or if you're throwing nuts, you know what I mean? Make one of them do a weird thing so we can go, oh my God, there's something there. Which, and this is what I really should be talking about, which is what happens in the book. When they first go into the zone, first off, the stalker in the book is not the same as the stalker in this movie. The stalker in the book is this strong, really everything the stalker's against in the movie. This incredibly strong, you do it my way or you're going to die, and people don't do it his way and they die. Like, that's it, straight up. He's right. You follow the stalker or you die. And every step in the zone is incredibly important, and it takes them an hour to move 100 feet. It's insanity. It's really crazy. And when we first move in, he's with a scientist, and he's got a helicopter, and he's throwing those bolts, and you actually see a bolt fly from his hand and then hit a bug trap, he calls them, a gravity well, and it changes its trajectory in midair. And you know throughout that entire book how scary the zone is. It literally brings back the dead, and the dead just walk home. They don't do anything. They don't hurt anybody, but the dead are rising that were buried in the zone and trying to get back to their houses. The zone is terrifying in the book. And here, what did he say he wanted the zone to be?
He just wants it to be something that enhances the characters.
Yeah.
That brings out the inner personalities of the characters. I think the characters were the most important thing. Of course, back to the unities, right? You put something in that kind of a strict position in order so you can do character studies.
Right.
Right?
Because people always, at their worst, bring out the worst in themselves, right?
People at their worst bring out the worst.
So they're so stressed that they have to...
Oh, yeah.
That
putting him in that position.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you could even go so far as to say that the zone itself brings some of that out of them.
Yeah.
Because the writer and the scientist are constantly at each other.
Well, and it's really strange, and I have this hatred for a certain type of dialogue writing, and I feel like the movie often has this kind of dialogue, and it's where people have these long philosophical monologues while other people just kind of stare off into the distance while they go over like how important art is or whatever. Like, nobody talks like that in real life, and it has a tendency to really trip me up. But I think that in this case, that can be blamed on the zone.
They're
all
say that.
Literally zoning out, right?
Uh-huh.
And just kind of almost talking to themselves. They are responding to each other, but in that sleep scene especially, it seems like they're just talking to themselves.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah, the sleep sequence is very interesting. I love the dog the dog's in black and white most of the time. I believe as the stalker goes to sleep, the dog shows up. And I don't believe the dog is there with them in the color world. I think the dog is in the dream.
Yeah.
And the dog shows up. It comes and sits by him. And of course, his dream wanders, and that camera moves across the floor. We come across that hand. But then the dog's in color. So the dog has come out of his dream and is now with him. It's now part of him. And I think that the zone brought that out of him.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah. And another indication that the zone might be actually a very haunted, crazy place in the film is when the professor forgets his bag.
Oh, yeah.
And they go around this way. We see them walking, and I don't believe any real time passes. So I imagine...
Well, we see those ashes of the fire.
Exactly.
So time might really pass weirdly.
Right, exactly. So I feel like they walk for like a
3
minute,
minutes, yeah.
3 minutes
Yeah,
at most.
2, yeah.
They walk for 2 or 3 minutes, and they pop out of this new area, and the professor's there. And the professor has his bag, and the professor has a fire burning, and the professor's eating a sandwich.
Yeah.
Right, and I do believe that the ashes that we saw earlier...
On their little 2-minute walk.
Yes, are from that fire, which suggests that they went forward in time.
Yeah.
And then back in time, and then the professor thought he was in the same place because he went back for his bag, but it's not the same shot.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I guess that's really
weird.
the only time we actually see a trap that happens constantly in the books. Like, there's dead bodies. People have died all over the zone in the book. And in this case, I think that... And we do see bodies in this.
There's about 3, I think. Yeah.
But in this case, that was the only time I think we saw a zone trick that would be similar to the book.
Yeah. So quickly, I do want to bring up kind of a theme that I feel like is important both to this novel and to the film itself, which is basically the idea of the Soviet Union kind of breaking down. This came out in 1979. I know that the book was written in 1972, but they had a lot of trouble
Publishing.
But I feel like all through the 1970s, there was this general idea that the communist ideal that the Soviet Union was going to become wasn't really working out. And I think that with the bread lines and all the things that were coming out, for me, mostly I remember it in the early 80s because of my age, but I know, of course, that stuff was happening earlier.
I remember it. I remember seeing news with people in lines for bread.
Yeah, it happened for a very
And I remember
long
late
time.
80s.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So I think that the Soviet Union just kind of falling apart, because what we get is outside the zone is horrible.
In the movie.
It's right in the film. Everything is filthy. Everyone is downtrodden and depressed, and getting into the zone, it's like this weird natural paradise.
Well, and we already talked about this a little bit, but when it goes into color, it doesn't go into color. Wizard of Oz is into color right when you get into the zone, and the zone's an ugly place. There's a lot of ugly in the zone, but when it first does that, it's green and beautiful. And we've been in this weird house where I don't know how he did that with the paint on the doors in that room.
Yeah.
And it looks like everything's peeling away.
Oh, yeah.
Everything's covered in brown.
Yeah.
The glass, the doors, everything.
The bar is
just, so the zone, when you get into it, it's beautiful.
Yeah, it is stunning. And you're right, all of the man-made stuff is decaying.
Right.
But the nature is just
he rolls
crazy.
in the grass.
Oh, yeah.
He leaves the other
so
two
happy
people
to be there,
he's been in prison. He's come back to his family. They're all grumpy. And then he gets into the zone and he says, "Welcome home," right?
Yeah, literally, it's good to be home.
Yeah, it's good to be home.
Yeah.
The concept that the zone is his home. And when I first saw that in the movie, I thought about the concept of soldiers that want to be back in war areas.
Interesting.
In like a PTSD sort of way, like I'm still only in Saigon, right? The whole beginning of Apocalypse Now, where he just wants to be back in the jungle, even though that's the most terrifying place you can be. The zone kind of feels like that to me with the Stalker, how the Stalker wants to be there.
Yeah, and later on in the film, he literally says, "I'm going to take my family, I'm going to bring them back here." And that doesn't work out.
How could it?
Can't. Yeah.
I mean, you can't walk
right
without dying.
Right.
All right, from here, because this isn't a movie that's heavy on plot, we've told you the entire plot of the movie. This movie is very interested in the arc of the characters. and their journey through the zone to get to the room that grants wishes. So we figured the best way to break this up would be to break it up by character. So we'll start with the Stalker.
Yeah.
The most important.
We're gonna talk about three main characters. There's two other characters
Oh,
that
we
we'll
might
bring
them up if
well,
you remember.
when we get to the multiple endings.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah. So the Stalker, the Stalker in this film is very subservient in a very weird way. I know that's a strange way to put it.
Completely opposite from the book.
Yeah, but he believes that being weak and being flexible, he associates those two together. Being weak and being flexible is how you are at the beginning of life as a baby. But when you reach the end of your life, when you're strong
and hard,
that's right, that's when you die.
So it's a quote from Lao Tzu's The Tao Te Ching, section 76. I didn't realize that.
Yeah, and I didn't either.
Yeah.
The movie is quoting another source. The Stalker is quoting something that he read.
All about that pliancy and the supple tree versus the old hard tree.
Right. When a tree's young, it's very bendable, but when it's old and hard and dead...
which I assume is about adaptability.
Yeah.
Because a stalker has to adapt to constant change in the zone.
Mm-hmm.
Because the traps are moving constantly.
But he equates that with being weak.
Yeah. No. So being adaptable
is good.
Yeah. Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah. Weakness
Strength
is
and
good.
Hardness is stubbornness is not
bad.
good.
So that's a very interesting point of view that the Stalker has in this film, and that makes the Stalker do very strange things.
Very strange things.
Like there's the point where they're going through the meat grinder, and he sends the writer first, and then he and the professor follow the writer, but the whole time he is hiding behind the professor. Yeah, he's like peeking out from
terrified.
Behind. Yeah, it's such an interesting, weird...
He is childish.
Yeah.
He is childish. The Stalker is childish, and the Stalker in the book is the complete opposite. He is a man ground down and gritty and hard, and when he tells you to do something, you do it. And that is not... And of course, that's there's more, way more to him than that in the book. A lot more, but that is his outer exterior. And the outer exterior of this guy is just... I was blown away because I was expecting something completely different. I mean, right away when he said, "Oh, you professor, you go first," and I was like, "Wow, he's letting that guy walk really far into the zone without giving him any direction." So yeah, it was a real change. Once again, I think the zone was far scarier in the book.
Mm. Yeah, and also the Stalker in this really values his job.
Yeah.
And I think that's a very Russian thing, and it shows in the way he justifies his actions. In the end of the film, the professor is going to blow up the artifact so that
the room. Yeah,
the whole room. And I think it's going to kill all of them.
I think
so
too.
That bomb he described sounds huge.
Yeah, 20, I can't remember what
megatons or some craziness. Yeah. So he's going to nuke the whole area. And the Stalker breaks down and explains to him that his only value in life is by giving the saddest people their wishes and making their lives better. And he doesn't do it out of a sense of, I am a god and I control people's lives. He does it out of his need to help humanity. And his speech about this is so impressive to the other characters that the professor decides not to bomb the place.
And I think and this is another philosophy that the Stalker has, while we're talking about him, that he believes that the zone is more forgiving to people that have lived more traumatic lives, are sadder, are more depressed, that the zone brings luck to them. Like, if you took the happiest person in the world with him, it seems like the zone would kill them the minute they stepped into it, right?
That's what he's suggesting.
Yeah. There's a part where somebody makes it through something, very luckily, the writer, twice is very lucky and doesn't die by walking off on his own into the zone 3 times.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's constantly, because they do have a part where he begins to wander. He starts messing with this bush. He wants to figure out, what is this bush tied to? We never see what he's yanking on.
Right. It's got to be a wire or something.
Yeah, whatever he's yanking on is wiggling this tree over here. And the stalker's saying, stop it, stop it. And he picks up a metal bar and he chucks it at him.
Yeah, you got to respect this. And that's the most like the book that it ever was.
It is.
Because that is the kind of the stuff that the stalker in the book would do.
Yeah.
Like you don't realize that pulling that stupid metal thing and shaking that tree just killed you.
Right.
Because it's the zone, man.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that sets off the writer. From that moment on, the writer is very anti the stalker. Like, the writer kind of just wants to do what he wants to do.
Yeah.
And the stalker sort of lets him.
Yeah.
Which sort of encourages it.
And he never dies. And that's why they keep talking about his luck. The stalker at one point says, you must be a really miserable, you must be really unhappy and had a miserable existence.
Because the zone likes you.
So the stalker is doing this to bring hope into the world.
Mm-hmm.
He believes that the zone is really only for people that have lived very traumatic lives.
The meek shall inherit the earth.
Oh,
yep.
Yeah, and the Christ figure.
Yeah. Yeah, I do believe there's a lot of... there's a whole point where he's quoting the Bible, I think.
Yeah, he talks about 2 people having a conversation and Jesus falls into the conversation with them, but they don't know it's Jesus. Mm-hmm. And that's obviously him talking about himself and the conversation that the writer and the professor were just having. And the whole thing can kind of be seen as an allegory, a Christian allegory for faith and belief and all of that. It's kind of heavy-handed in the movie, honestly. It's really an important part to this story. And the stalker, of course, is the Jesus figure. And even at the end, he's weeping about nobody has faith. They will not believe him about the hope that he's bringing into the world. It kind of gave this whole other level to the stalker. Really interesting character, not what I expected. Almost a kind of a boy child running through with a bit of a messiah complex, really truly.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
well, you mentioned that.
No, this is really important, and this is something that Jason brought up.
Yeah.
That I think is really. Go ahead and or do you want me to introduce?
No,
it?
you go ahead. Yeah.
It's weird. This movie forces you to consider whether or not the zone is as bad as the stalker makes it out to be. And when you think that way, you can start to wonder, is he purposely creating this journey so that the people arrive at the wish fulfillment room in the right state of mind? And what we mean by this is could he be tailoring the journey? I mean, they go in the most idiotic, circuitous route to get to this building that at one point they were like a few hundred feet from. Could he do that on purpose? Is this a show so that they feel like they got their money's worth?
Right. And that's a real key. They do pay him to get led through this place. And his last speech, before the bomb comes out, his last speech when they arrive at the room is, the most important thing you must do is believe.
Yeah.
You have to believe. Just go in thinking what you want and believe it's going to happen.
Okay, sorry, I got cold. Okay, where were we?
Yeah, they have to believe. And he also explains that wishes come true later. They don't happen the minute you walk in there.
It's really strange because the whole time we were watching this, we kept bantering back and forth, wondering about, like, have people done these wishes before? Because if the only point is for the stalker to lead them to that room, to get their wishes, then people must have made wishes before.
Tons. I mean, you've got Porcupine.
Yeah, and in the book, it's laid out very well that nobody's been able to make it to the orb. It's not a room in the book, it's an orb. Nobody's been able to make it to the orb to make a wish yet, because they have to go through what's called the meat grinder, which is in the movie as well in a completely different way from the book. But anyway, you're wondering the whole time. And at one point, I was actually thinking to myself, does he create this whole journey to make sure that people don't want to make a wish at the end? Has he done this so many times that he is able to psychologically manipulate people through the journey so that they will not make a wish at the end? And then, just in case they do, he has it won't happen right away. So literally, what's it like to make a wish in that room? Do you just walk in and go, okay, you've walked in. Bye.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, there's a point where the guy starts to fall in the room, and the stalker grabs his coat and pulls him back, which suggests if he took one step, his wish would come true.
Yeah.
His deepest inner desire.
Yeah, which we'll have to get to in a bit, because we're going to have to talk about the end. I think that's the stalker.
Okay. Yeah.
Appliance. Yeah. These other parts will go a little faster. The writer is the next most complex character. We were watching interviews on the disc, and the guy was talking, and he said, because they're introduced as the professor and the writer, you almost want to make of them caricatures that are examples of science versus art, which I feel like the movie kind of pushes you to at the beginning. He even talks about this concept and the whole weird falling asleep, having a conversation. I want you to tell this part.
That's right. It's really neat. This was a really neat part of the movie for me, because the writer is falling asleep, but he's explaining that art is the only unselfish thing a human can do. And I was thinking to myself when I was watching that, I was like, wow, that's a really good point. I think that's true. Yeah. And then the scientist was like, dude, there are people starving to death on this planet. What are you talking about? And I was like, oh my God, that's really true. So that's a really good part of the film.
And I feel like, again, I was like, people don't talk this way. But at that point, they really were conversing. There was really, he was reacting directly to that statement.
Yeah.
So it felt a little more real there, a little less monologue-y.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, I really love the journey of the writer. I really enjoyed that he starts off saying, oh, no, I just want a muse. I want something that will inspire me so that I can continue to write. That's what my wish is. And as we go through this, he begins to realize, especially when they start talking about Porcupine, because Porcupine sent his brother through the meat grinder.
Okay, wait. Let's talk about the meat grinder really quick.
Yeah.
The meat grinder is a final step in the journey that you have to go through to get to the wish. In the book, it is you just have to bring a sacrifice with you. Somebody has to die to keep the meat grinder busy long enough for you to get to the orb. And of course, this is the first time it's happened at the end of the book that they've actually brought a sacrifice and done it. In the movie, it's this tunnel. It's this big crazy tunnel that they build up how scary it is just by the guy hiding behind the professor the whole time.
And they have to draw lots to see who goes first.
Yeah. So that's the meat grinder. All right, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, so
what the hell were you talking about? He wants to be a writer.
He sent his brother through the meat grinder. Yeah.
Oh yeah, and Porcupine is the stalker's teacher.
Yeah.
Mentor.
The stalker's mentor sent his own brother into the meat grinder first and killed his brother to get this far in. And apparently he made a wish. And the stalker says stalkers are not allowed to make wishes. It's a very bad thing. And the reason I know that is because Porcupine told me. But Porcupine made a wish. Now the writer has created that story in his mind. And the writer says, I know what happened because Porcupine committed suicide. Porcupine hung himself.
Yeah.
So he says, I know what happened. Porcupine told himself that he was going to go in and wish for his brother to come back alive. But when he was thinking to himself, I want my brother back, I want my brother back, and he walked in the room, all that happened is a pile of money appeared. Because the reality is Porcupine didn't give a shit about his brother. He just wanted money. And that's why the money appeared.
And that's the terror of the wish.
Right. And that's what made Porcupine commit suicide, is he realized what a horrible person he actually was. And that scared the writer so much. The writer realized, I don't dare to go in this room, because if I do, my deepest, darkest desire is going to come true. Not whatever stupid thing I'm thinking up here.
Yeah, this room, you have to really consider. You walk in this room and you get what you want the most. It can read into your brain. And the question is, what do you really want the most? And when that appears, what does that reveal about the kind of person you are? And there's a psychological terror to that is just horrifying. Probably the scariest part of the movie.
Yeah, it is it's the genius of the film, in my opinion.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's the reason the film is what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because when they get there, none of them can dare to step into the room.
Yeah.
But the writer, we find out over time, it turns out that he hates being a writer.
The writer talks about how the critics eat him up and the public eats him up.
Consumes.
Yes, and I slowly began to realize through that speech that what he was saying is it didn't matter what he wrote. Everybody loved him all the time because they're so ravenous. They don't care. He said, I even wrote the deepest, darkest, disgusting parts of my soul, and they ate it up. They consumed it.
Oh, yeah, they even eat the filth of your soul.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah.
They do. And he realized that all he was this food-producing machine. And the minute he died, they would find somebody else. His art would not last in any way because it was just being consumed.
Yeah, and earlier he said, if you're not read in 100 years, why write?
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
And I think he was beginning to realize that he was just the flavor of the month.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. So we jumped ahead a little bit, but yeah, that's why he can't make the wish, because he's afraid of what will appear before him.
Yeah, and he constantly is making himself out to be this tragic figure, and the Stalker builds on that. The Stalker.
He's constantly trying to turn himself into the victim.
Yeah.
Yeah, he really is. And then the Stalker chooses him to be the one to go through the grinder, which could be a sacrifice. You don't know.
It could be a sacrifice, or it could be that the Stalker is feeding this victim thing that this guy has.
Yeah, in order to make him realize so he won't make a wish.
Right. And I know that sounds really extreme, but it's fun to talk about this kind of intense stuff.
It is really extreme. But it's just because for some odd reason, and even in the novel, how did the rumor start that room grants your wishes, right?
Right.
How did the rumor start that there was an orb? And in the novel, just anybody that sees the orb and stares at it starts to realize it can grant their deepest wishes. The movie never explains it.
Right. All they say is, right now, it's just a rumor. But when this grows, the world is going to storm this location.
Actually, that brings us right to the professor, who is very important as a character, but probably the least important of the big three.
Yeah, well, it's tough because you have to hide the fact that he has that bomb.
Yeah,
he has that bomb the whole time. So he's always just staying quiet, guarding his knapsack. You know what I mean?
Yeah, he wants to blow up the entire zone, it feels like.
Right.
And that's because he thinks once this becomes bigger than a rumor, that there's going to be bad people that will make wishes, and it would be really strange if somebody went in there and asked to enslave all of humanity, which is what the Stalker, whose name is Red in the book, is thinking. as he's going through all the trials to get to that orb, he's thinking in his brain, I'm going to take over the world and make it the best place it can be because everybody's going to be under my control. And that's the kind of wish that is terrifying, and it's not the wish that Red makes in the end. But yeah, that's what the professor's scared of.
Right, and that's all in the book.
Right.
Right, in the movie, the stalker is not making a wish. He's not.
Not at all.
Right.
Not at all. Yeah, sorry, I went off onto the book.
Yeah.
But yeah, the professor is scared of people that could be like that, right? Like somebody that wants to do harm, showing up and doing a wish. And the stalker believes, back to the stalker for a second, that he is able to pick the right people to go on the journey with him. That's big. Like, he thinks that somehow he's able to look into people and know that they're right for the room. And I think one of the ends of the movie is him realizing that he can't do that.
Right. He didn't do a good job.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
So we had to ask ourselves the question, why doesn't he blow up? Why doesn't he do it?
Yeah. He arrives with the bomb. He says, I'm going to blow this place up. Apparently, this group formed that decided that this was a horrible thing and they needed to get rid of it. So they created this bomb. And then they changed their mind. And he quotes some things. He talks about how if you want to do good, you should never destroy things. Destroying things is bad. So if you want to do good, you got to find a way to do it without destroying things. And apparently the group changed their mind and they hid the bomb. They hid it in warehouse number 4 or something like that. But he didn't agree with them, so he found the bomb. He went and found it, and he's come in here to blow it up. There's this crazy scene where it's the reveal.
And this was awesome because it's not in the book at all. Are you talking about the
phone? Yeah.
Yes. Oh my God.
Yeah. So they're in this room. They're starting this weird argument, and suddenly a phone starts ringing.
Dirty, dilapidated old building.
Yeah, and the writer grabs it and picks it up, and I think he says, "No, this is not the clinic," and he hangs up.
And they start arguing a second.
Yeah, and then all of them just look at the phone like, "What the heck?"
Like, how could there be a phone in the zone?
Right, and why would somebody call thinking it's the clinic, and what the hell? And then the professor grabs the phone, walks out of the room, and calls his colleague. And his colleague's like, what do you want? I don't want to talk to you. And he's like, I just want you to know that I am about 10 feet away from the room, and I'm going to blow it up. And he's like, yeah, because you're pathetic, because I slept with your wife 10 years ago.
I honestly didn't understand any of this.
Yeah.
I had a hard time with this. So you're saying that the colleague didn't want him to blow up the place?
He did not want him to. That society, or whatever the hell that was,
whatever he called,
that hid the bomb, had decided we should not blow it up. And that's why they hid the bomb from him specifically.
Oh, okay.
But the guy says, you're only doing this because I slept with your wife. You are not doing this because you want to make the world a better place. That's a lie. You're doing it to get revenge on me.
So I guess his character arc is kind of vengeance. It's weird that they put that in so late.
Right.
Yeah.
Right, it's true. I think they wanted to hide the reveal of the bomb,
yeah.
which I really loved.
I agree.
Yeah, I loved that we're like, oh, he wants to blow it up. Oh my God.
Yeah, I didn't think that.
That's insane. Yeah. Yeah. And of course he says this will ruin your career as a scientist, and I don't know why they're saying. I guess the bomb maybe has a timer,
I think
they'd have time to get out.
Yeah, that's what I'm guessing because there's buttons on it.
Yeah, he has to put in a code.
Yeah.
So,
and I like what you said that he was affected by the stalker's speech.
Right. The stalker, when the stalker realizes that he's there to blow it up, he gives this very impassioned speech about how the only value in his life is his work, is his job. And I feel like that's a very Russian thing. And I think in a couple videos back, you were talking about how in the prologue to the book, the person was explaining that...
Oh, the last line of the wish is political?
No, that this story is unique in the sense that it's about
Oh yeah,
the working man.
yeah, working
It's about
class,
the
not the
proletariat
elites.
instead of the bourgeois,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Because
yeah,
the bourgeois would be the scientists or whatever
yeah,
that would study it. But this is about the proletariat. This is about the working class. And I think that speech is what swayed that scientist, is what made him understand that to take away the hope from the working man is the worst thing that the bourgeois could do.
yeah,
That would destroy everything. There'd be another revolution, probably,
yeah.
right?
So that's why he didn't blow it up.
I think that's, yeah,
Okay.
I think that's it. Yeah, so now we want to talk about the several endings of this film. Because storytelling wise, I don't believe this film wraps up as cleanly as a lot of films do.
Yeah, well, it was strange because for me, the point where I was at the highest philosophical understanding that the film gave me was when he was throwing the pieces of the bomb into the wishing room.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that is a hell of an end.
Right, for him to take apart the bomb,
Yep.
everybody to realize they're not going to make a wish,
Yep.
and he just takes that thing apart slowly.
And even the fact that the writer, because everybody's been so cruel to each other throughout the entire journey,
Mm-hmm.
and the writer has got his arm around the stalker and is literally like patting him, like, there,
Oh, yeah.
there, you know what
Yeah.
I mean?
Yeah.
That to me I thought was going to fade, and that would be it. And
Right.
that to me would be a very complete statement.
Mhm.
But the
Yeah.
movie goes on.
Right, right. Yeah, the next scene is them back at the bar.
Yeah. With the dog.
Right, the dog comes with them, which I thought was really great because whatever that dream sequence was hinting toward, that came to life through the dog, that came into color, he brings with him home. Yeah, and his wife is there, and she's like, "Oh, good, you came back." And then all three of them go home together.
Yeah, and it's very interesting because it cuts to Monkey, just her face,
The
and it
daughter.
looks like she's walking. Yeah, I'm sorry. His daughter is named Monkey, and her legs don't work. But it suddenly seems like she's walking, and it's in color again. And it's close up on her face, and then it zooms back, and she's sitting on her dad, the stalker's shoulders, as they're going home.
Yeah, monkeys in color, which is really cool.
Yeah,
Yeah.
really strange at this point
Yeah.
because I thought they were back in the zone because he had talked about he was going to move his family to the zone, which is just insane. But no, they're just going home.
Right.
They're just going home.
So they walk home, and then you've got a scene where she's feeding the dog, and he breaks down on the floor because he realizes that he can't pick good people.
Yeah, he's pissed off that the two people that he brought were completely faithless.
Yeah.
'Cause I think he
nobody
really-
has faith.
I think the truth is we've been talking about how interesting it would be if it wasn't really a wish fulfillment and that he was making people choose not to do it.
Mm-hmm.
But the truth is, I think it really is wish fulfillment, and I think he really wants people to step in there.
Yeah, I believed his impassioned.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
he's let down that people won't step into the damn room.
Right. Yeah. Well, that's a good point.
I think
Yeah.
he really wants people to step into the room. But then it's interesting because she says, I want to step into the room.
Right. So after he breaks down, she moves him to the bed, and he says, "There's nobody's going to hire me anymore. Nobody has anything they want to wish for." And she says, "I do." And he says, "You can't," which is really crazy. And I thought he was going to say, "Because you'll change me."
Yeah. I was thinking about Monkey.
Right. You will alter our family if you get to make a wish. Now, what he says is, what if you fail? And I don't know if what if you die when you're in there?
What if you fail to step into the room?
Yeah, what if you don't have faith, so you think that making a wish is a horrible idea when you get there and you decide you don't want to? Yeah, which is all right. It's okay, but I would have liked the punch of him being self-aware enough to be able to say, I I hope you like me the way I am, and
Yeah.
I don't dare for you to make a wish. You know. So that occurs, and then the wife gets a monologue directly to the camera.
Richard III style.
Right. Richard III style,
Yeah.
absolutely. And that has happened earlier in the film. This is not the first time somebody addresses the camera. The one that sticks out in my mind right now is the writer. When the writer almost dies after going through the meat grinder, he has this huge soliloquy right to the camera about being a writer.
Oh yeah. When he's by that well.
Right.
I
When
thought
he's
he was
by the
talking
well.
to them.
Right. They do a neat thing. I mean, he's looking in the camera the entire time, and the camera does pan across the room. So he's not looking in one place. He's looking at the camera. But then they cut to his point of view, and the two people are right there.
Yeah,
So
I didn't catch it.
at that moment, you're right. It looks like he's talking right to them.
Yeah.
But the camera did move.
Okay.
You know.
Yeah, I didn't catch it. So when the wife started talking to the camera, I was like, why are we still doing this? What is happening?
Yeah. And her speech is, it's all right. It's about why she loves him and
I
she
think
wants
it's
adventure.
very much of the ideological time of 1979 in Russia.
Yeah. It's,
I mean,
it's the way men would want their women to behave.
Yeah.
It's the way most women probably did behave, I guess.
and she says some stuff that could be considered critiquing of the patriarchy, maybe, right? Like she says, if we were happy, then no. If we were, God, what'd she say?
Well, she says you can't have happiness without sadness, so I'm glad that I have sadness in my life.
And being married to him is sadness,
Right.
which is great because then I can have happiness. Because
Right.
if there was no sadness, there'd be no
Right.
happiness.
And she did not want to live a dull, boring life.
Yeah.
And he brings adventure to her.
Which I don't see how, because she just has to sit back at home.
Right.
And
I think her idea of adventure is, where is my man? And now I have to go visit my man in prison. And,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
she has an exciting life, you know, a different life.
very much 1979 Russia
Stand by your
ideology.
man
Yeah.
kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's okay. I don't know. She's an amazing actress. The monologue's pretty good. It's okay. I just don't know how important it is for the film.
I didn't need it.
Right.
I didn't need it.
Right.
I mean, her character. I don't need the next part either.
Right.
Even though it's
so
super
that
cool.
could have been. It could have been an ending in the bed when he says, "What if you failed?"
It could have been an ending in the room, in the wish room. Could have been an ending when they were walking home. It could have been an ending in the bed. Could have been an ending after she spoke.
Right.
And
then
then
we get to Monkey. And now we're back in color again because it's Monkey. Monkey's in color, which
For
is
some odd
very
reason.
interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's not in color in the beginning, but
There's a
she's
reason.
asleep. Okay, but
Oh, yeah, that's a good point.
right, but she's asleep. So they just pan across her. That's all they do. But in the end, Monkey's in color, and she is reading a book. I don't know what it is. It's impossible.
It looked
to
like a
tell.
Bible to me.
It did, but I feel like that whole bookshelf, they all look like Bibles.
Yeah.
I don't.
Yeah.
I think it's impossible to tell what she's reading. All we know is it's really thick and it's Russian.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
so that's cool. She's reading, which I think is an important point because Monkey can't walk. Monkey doesn't speak at all in the film. So you might begin to think that Monkey's stupid.
Yeah, and the camera's always like right on her.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's never a
Yeah.
full body shot of her except for her back when she's on the stalker's
Right.
shoulders.
Right. So it's probably to point out that Monkey is not stupid.
Yeah.
So Monkey's sitting there reading, and then she closes the book, and of course she reads for a while. Then she closes the book, and she looks over at the 3 glasses that are on the table, and she slowly starts moving one with her mind. And
Stephen King.
well, and there's also Pet Cemetery.
Oh yeah,
Talking
that's
about
true.
Stephen
Talking
King.
about the
People
dead coming back
to life. But she's not touching it. She's using her mind, and she moves this glass clear across the table. The second glass, she moves across the table. The third glass, she literally moves and knocks it off the table, which is super weird, super cool.
I think she represents the zone.
Right, and it should be stated that...
That's why she's in color.
Right. Children from people who hang out in the zone are different. Okay? She can't walk. I don't know that she can speak at all.
Yeah.
But she has the power to move things with her mind, which is really incredible and strange.
It's super cool, and I don't know why we needed it.
Right.
And that's the hard part, is all these endings are fine. But why do we need 5?
Right. And then that's how the film actually ends. She puts her head down on the table, and the train comes by, which is the opening of the film. It's a bookend. The train opens the movie, and the train closes the movie. Yeah, very, very weird.
Yeah.
Not traditional storytelling.
I would have ended it a little bit earlier. Couple of really quick things. We were really considering trying to do the movie Annihilation this week. Because if you've seen both these films or read the books, and I have not read Annihilation, the book. I have not read it yet, and I do plan to, which is why we decided not to do Annihilation this week. But what's my word?
The whole dang plot.
Yeah. These two movies are very similar.
Yeah.
The similarities of these two
Yeah.
movies are I don't ever want to say derivative or anything like that, but I was really amazed when I read Roadside Picnic how much it was like Annihilation, and I absolutely loved the movie Annihilation. Mm-hmm. It's one of my favorite sci-fi movies of all time. So
yeah, there's room for Annihilation and Stalker.
Yeah,
but they are very
well. In a
similar.
weird way, I feel like the zone or the shimmer in Annihilation is closer to the zone in the book Roadside Picnic.
Than Stalker is to
yeah.
Roadside Picnic. Yeah.
So one of the things that Jason and I were talking about as the movie finished up was it would be awesome if somebody made a movie for Roadside Picnic and straight up followed that story.
Yeah, like I would highly, highly recommend this movie. Straight up. I think it's a brilliant film.
Yeah.
And I kind of think of it like maybe as a sequel to Roadside Picnic.
Yeah.
Like it's just another story, another adventure in the same world.
Yeah.
Because it is very different. But yes, I would love for somebody to make an actual adaptation of Roadside Picnic. I haven't read it, but from what Chris has been telling me about it, from what the video says, I feel slightly gypped, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
I really want to see that movie.
Yeah.
Because it sounds very cool.
Yeah, I just remember, because I hadn't seen the movie, and I called Jason after the first 50 pages, and I was like, oh my God, this zone is so scary. And he's like, it is? Because all he'd seen was the movie at that point.
Yeah.
And the zone was just, there's so much detail in the book, and it's a different story. I think Stalker stands on its own as a movie. I think it's a really good movie. Yeah. It's funny because I thought I was going to be really pissed off at the really long scenes where nothing was going on, but they were beautifully done. In fact, I like the scenes in Stalker that are long more than I like the scenes that are long in Solaris. Yeah. Like the driving in the highways of Russia.
Which is actually Japan.
Oh, is it really?
Yeah, they filmed that in Tokyo.
Oh, interesting. Driving in Russia that is Tokyo. Yeah. Tokyo that is Russia. That went on too long, and there was nothing to look at that made me feel like there was a reason for the length of that. But in this movie, all those shots are great. The only problem I have is with the tendency towards soliloquies, as you said earlier. I just my hackles rise because I'm like, nobody talks like that. But
that's the play aspect of it.
Yeah, it is.
That's the unities and all that stuff.
Yeah, it is.
It's Greek. It's very Greek.
I think that's it.
Yeah.
Roadside Picnic, y'all. I hope you enjoyed Roadside Picnic Week. Thank you very much for watching this video to the end. If you liked it, please click like. If you like this kind of content, please click subscribe because we're going to do a lot more of it in the future. Also, I do want to say, and this is something that I don't say very often, if you are worried about seeing our videos when they come out, click the little bell for notifications. and you will see our videos whenever they pop up, so you won't miss any of them.
Yeah, somebody left a comment.
Yeah.
They didn't realize a video was up.
Yeah, they didn't realize we'd made any Earthsea videos.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So if you are following, do click the bell.
Yeah.
Because it will. I don't think just looking at your homepage will show you everything.
That's right.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for watching.